My name is Homer Hodge. I'm a volunteer working at the National Museum of the United States Army, and I welcome you all to come here and see our wonderful displays. Well, first of all, I had spent 20 years in the Army on active duty, and then I spent the next 30 years or so working in the intelligence business, most of that with the Army. So obviously I was very much interested in the Army. And I've been a military historian forever. So I was anxious to see the Army Museum. I had visited other military museums actually all over the world, and some of them are really exceptionally well done, and I would look for accuracy in displays and things. So I was really excited about the Army finally having a museum that could compete with the Marine Corps Museum down the road and other museums. Oh, the opportunity to meet and talk to people and explain things, answer questions, but also just offer explanations beyond what's written under the artifacts and things like that. Well, like I say, I went in there and went through the training, and my thinking all along was to become a gallery docent, working in World War II and World War I. And, once getting in there and seeing everything and going through the other galleries, I realized that, working in the other galleries would be good for me, and I could still draw on the knowledge I have. And it was interesting to, going up on the third floor where you're working both the Nisei mini gallery and the Medal of Honor mini gallery, I learned more things. Plus, I was able to explain things to visitors up there. And I think once or twice when I was working that area, I also was covering part-time the second floor where they had all the artwork. I went in there and was just amazed at a lot of the artwork that was in there. That was an educational experience too. So, I look at all that and I think, this is really a good experience to not only work there, but to come there as a visitor. And I remember when I was going through the docent training and the museum wasn't completely finished yet, and we could see parts of it, as we went to the auditorium. And one of the requirements, part of our training, was to go visit 2 other museums. And I went down to see the Marine Corps Museum in Quantico, which I had been to many years earlier, but not recently. And I got in there and I began to think, well, is our museum going to be as good as this Marine Corps Museum is? And once we opened and I got to spend more time in there, I concluded that the Army Museum was every bit as good as the Marine Corps Museum. Well, there's an awful lot of opportunities to be gained in serving in the Army. Like I say, I went in as a dumb high school kid who hadn't done very well in high school, and my parents had divorced when I was in the 7th grade, so I lived with just my father, and I didn't, I mean, I loved him dearly, but I'm looking back, I'm not sure he did quite as much as he could have done to to develop me. I mean, he did teach me a lot of history, but he didn't make me do homework or inquire about me doing homework, and so I didn't do much of that. And here's another experience that I had. Once again, I could say the Army. When I went through high school, I was in ROTC. In those days, high school ROTC was run by active duty Army NCOs and one officer. Today, they're run by retired Army personnel. But through knowing my instructors, I knew the Army recruiter, active duty Army sergeant, downtown. And at the end of my high school, my first high school senior year, I was flunking. So I went down to enlist in the Army, and the recruiter had me filling out various forms. And then he said, sort of matter-of-factly, "You are going to graduate next week, aren't you?" And I said, "No." And this was back in the 50s, where, at least the popular view was the Army didn't care whether you had a high school diploma or not. He took all those papers away from me and said, "I know you well enough to know you can do better. You go back and repeat your senior year and graduate and come back, and then I'll enlist you in the Army." I walked out of his office, went across the hall to the Marine Corps recruiter, opened the door, went in there, and there's a Marine gunnery sergeant sitting at the desk with a phone up to his ear. And he looks up at me and he says, "Your name Hodge?" I said, "Yes." And he said, "Come back when you've got a high school diploma." So I know that Army recruiter knew what I was going to do next. And he called the Marine gunnery sergeant and said, "Here's the story, and don't let him in the Marine Corps." So, I went back and repeated my senior year, graduated, did better then. And I look back and I wish I could remember his name. I'm sure he's since passed on, but, that guy really took care of me. And there were so many other people along the way as well. Even in the language school, the classes were very small. There were 6 people in my class. We had all native speakers as the instructors. In my Korean class, there were, like I say, 6 of us, 3 newly enlisted soldiers, and 3 Special Forces NCOs. And I learned so much from those 3. And later on in Korea, company commander, captain, that he never talked to me about, staying in the Army or anything. But my decision to make a career in the Army really had a lot to do with the example he set and the kinds of things he taught me. And the same goes for those 3 NCOs. So, I guess my whole point is you learn so much and you have so many different interesting experiences, plus meeting lots of people from different, states and even foreign countries. That, that to me is probably the best part of a career in the Army. or even just 3 years in the Army. Well, just the history of the U.S. Army, and it certainly covers that in detail, going all the way back to the Revolution. And so it's a good opportunity to understand the history, not only of the Army, but of the country. So, I think that's the most important thing. And plus, a lot of the displays are so accurately done that it's a lesson for anybody, even people who've served in the Army.